The 90s are back, and everyone's looking like Billy Joel Armstrong with their leather cuffs. So we designed a cuff. We designed it in two sizes, a small one and a big one. And this is the big one. This fits up to like 8.5, 9-inch wrists. And today we're going to make the small one and show you how to put it all together. Super easy project. You're going to need some rivets. I'm choosing to use these, I think they're for watch loops, but they're just 22 millimeter kind of lower profile loops instead of the traditional D-rings. And this is a roller center bar buckle. This one, the one that we like with the shapes in it. Link will be in the description. Anyway, so we're going to make the smaller version of the way of this cuff. And the way that these cuffs work is they're multi-sized because if it fits you, you wear it like this. But if it's too big for you, you tuck this underneath. Right? So you can go all the way down to that last hole, and even this one would fit a 7-inch wrist, probably a little bit smaller. So you get a whole gamut of sizes. Patterns, a couple bucks in the description if you want it, and if you want to make a pair of these, go for it. We're going to start off with a nice soft leather. We're using Newbury Leather's South Street leather in Cognac, like we did for the DOP kit. And it's a very simple project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a fairly rigid part of the hide to cut my strip of leather out of. And right here feels pretty good. You don't need a lot of leather for these at all, which is really great. Now I'm going to start by cutting my 3/4 ounce strap, because we're going to need that to put our buckle and everything on. The only thing not in this pattern is the length of that strap. What I would suggest doing is leaving this part open. So you have in the pattern every hole that you need to set these, but I would leave this open and then size this to whoever's wearing it and then cut off the end on your own. That's the only part. It says it has it in the instructions there. That just guarantees you have a good fit. So the first thing we need to do is cut some 3/4 inch leather. I have my calipers set to 3/4 inch, and I'm going to just run this down here to get myself a line. And I like to cut chrome tan this way, just because I'm not really good with chrome tan, and I don't know if it's the blade in my strap cutter or what, but I get a better cut this way. You can see how sometimes it bends a little bit, and you can adjust that with a ruler. And then I'm going to use a rotary punch to punch out the holes in this pattern. Now, I just realized that I didn't add which way is the front, which way the buckle goes. I will do that in the pattern before you see this video, but your buckle is going to go on the side that the printing is not, basically. I'm punching the holes out of the pattern, just paper, so that I get a super accurate location once I have this pattern traced onto our leather. Now, there's no straight lines in this, so you got to put your knife skills to the use. If you can't cut through in one pass, don't worry about it. Just make sure you're following the line that you traced. And you can go off to one side, and then come back and do a second pass, and you'll get right through with a nice clean cut. For this pattern, I'm not going to worry about beveling the edges. I'm just going to kind of soften the transitions that I made in cutting. And then we are going to, because it's chrome tan, we're going to use Tokenol to varnish. So that will really seal up those edges. But I'm going to give this a light sanding with, this is like 220 or 300 grit, without anything on it. And I'm going to do the same thing on our strap here, which is always, it's a 3/4 inch strap, so if you got big hands, it's a little difficult to hold on to, but it's doable. So in my dye pen, I have a mix of 2/3 medium and 1/3 dark brown dye from Thievings. And I'm just going to go through and do one coat of dye on the edges. Now, if you want, you can dye and Tokenol the entire back. However, I like how soft the back of this New Ray Leathers is. So I'm going to keep it nice and soft, and eventually, with wearing it, it'll wear in and become nice and slick anyway. Next, we're going to do some Tokenol, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just full strength Tokenol to the sides. I'm going to take my really light grit sandpaper, and I'm going to burnish it with that first. Because it's chrome tan, this will lay all the fibers down, and since there's acrylic resin in the Tokenol, it should keep them down. You can also just Tokenol the back as well if you'd like. I basically just like how soft it feels. So we're going to move on to doing our strap. Now the pattern comes with the part of the strap that has all the rivets so everything lines up. What I would suggest doing is leaving this tail long and then leaving a little bit of room at the top so you can use a round over like an English punch or something like that. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the holes. This is a 3/4 inch slot punch for our buckle. And then once these holes are marked, we are pretty much ready for assembly. This is a pretty easy guy to put together. They go really quick. I can't imagine how fast you can make these with a die. But now that I have my holes punched, I'm just going to go through. It doesn't matter if they're centered because we're going to have rivets on top of them, but I do want my holes centered. So just try to go by your tracings, but make sure that your holes themselves are centered. The rivets add a bit of forgiveness to the whole process. Oh, and thank you, by the way, for all of the suggestions. A couple videos ago I mentioned that the holes in our rotary punch were finally getting dull after 15 years, as you can see. And a bunch of you sent me techniques to sharpen them, so I don't have to buy new ones. So I haven't done it yet, but big appreciation. Thank you so much for sending me that technique, because it actually looks pretty fun. So once I get to the slot hole punch part, I'm going to leave that for now. Just take care of the holes I'm making using the tool in my hand. And then we'll go over to the cutting board. Now, and actually, you know what? We're going to cut out all the holes at the same time. It's time to assemble everything, and there was a couple comments in the last video about selling out with Buckeye stuff. We're just trying to give you the product number if you want to use the same thing. So these are 22mm natural brass watch loops. They fit a 3/4 inch strap perfectly, just because the website is it's big, it's not hard to navigate, it's just there's a lot of stuff on it. So if you want to use what we're using, you are looking for 22mm natural brass watch loops in solid brass. So we're going to need 2 of these. One of these buckles, which I forgot the name of, but will be at the link in the description. And I am using, for rivets, the rivets were weird on this one. The best fit I could find in our collection is a 9.4 top cap, and the length is 10 millimeters, something like that. Roughly those estimates. But putting these together is super fun. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to slide our buckle in. Well, you got to take the belt tongue protector off. We're going to slide our buckle in, put that through our slot punch, and put that through the other side. Now, because this is a 3/4 inch buckle, that 3/4 inch slot punch is going to fit perfectly. Then I'm going to take 2 of my rivets. I'm going to put the long side through, and I'm doing it, you can do, it doesn't matter what side you put the long side on, I just find it easier to do it this way. Because then we're going to go over here, we're going to make sure with our pattern that we're putting the buckle on the right side because we want the buckle to be covered by leather. And we also want the roller to be facing out. So it is a bit of a weird fit when you're just getting started on this one. I'm going to put the holes in like this, and then I'm going to take the other end of my cap and put that in there. Now these should hold, they're not set, but they should hold enough for us to get the entire strap assembled. Then we can go over to the press and just do our 6 rivets, and we're done with our whole piece. Well, besides sizing. So I'm going to slide 1 loop on. Then I'm going to slide another loop on, and keep it in mind, if you only want to include 1 loop, you can. God, I remember malls in the late 90s and the early 2000s, the amount of different types of bracelets like this there would be. Crazy. And now all we're ready to do, all we're ready to do is head over to the button press and just press in our double cap rivets. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is I like using double cap rivets for cuffs like this because your skin is going to be up against this. You can use the single cap with the flat back. You'll see a lot of cheaper bracelets doing that. A nice touch is to go with the double cap because they're nice and smooth, so you won't feel it on your wrist at all. So on the first rivet, you might have to bend your buckle out of the way a little bit. But once you get that one set, the rest are a breeze. You want to make sure that your D-rings or your loops that you're using are out of the way so they don't get caught. I've had them get caught in the middle here, then you have to drill out the rivet. That's no fun. But this is my favorite part of the project, just setting 6 rivets in a row, and then you got a fully done, basically done bracelet. There we go. So let's go size this up and we're done. So the way I'm going to size this without having anyone here is I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it right where the leather ends at the buckle here, and then I'm going to measure down, and it all depends on how small or how big you want to make it. I'm going to start at about 5.5 inches. That's a very small wrist, but some people have small wrists. And since this one starts at 7, all we have to do is go 6, 6.5, and 7. So we have 1 hole of overlap, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes. That's only 4 holes. So we're just going to add an extra couple holes so that they're even. I'm just going to go through with the same punch that I used before. And you want to use the smallest hole punch you can get away with for the tongue of your buckle. It'll just provide a sturdier fit. And we can see here, I like to have 1 hole, maybe 1.5 holes overlapping the leather, because ideally this buckle is going to fit someone where their wrist is, it's not quite touching. You want it a little bit far away, a little bit, touching. You don't want a ton of underlap. It's comfortable if it has to happen, but this is how to properly size the cuff. So all I have to do now is go back and do a punch at the end to round off the end, hit it up with Tokenol, and we're done. So here we go, a nice set of cuffs. I like how it has the curve to it, gives it a little more fashionable look if you want to really dig into that Johnny Depp vibe. This is the one that fits me. I like to fit it so that the buckle, how do I like to do it? I like to do it so that the buckle faces inwards because it's just easier to put on. And what you're going to do is, never promise this was the easiest thing to put on in the world. There's a lot of flappies and strappies going on here, but you're going to go under the first one, obviously pick your hole and go through the second one. And you have your wrist, cuff, that makes you look like you're ready to go to Warped Tour and watch AFI. The small one fits the same way, only my wrists wouldn't even fit on the way last one. But you can see here, if it's too big, all we have to do is tuck this under. You can tuck it under either way. And then we find the hole that we want to use on the wearer's wrist. And we just use that hole. So you have a nice, this is so small compared to my wrist, but you have a nice wrist with clasps. They look really nice. And especially with this leather, the Newbury leathers, South Street and Cognac. Great leather. We made the Daub kit. I've been using it for 2 weeks now. Really, really in love with this stuff. It's chrome tan, so it's good against water, but it's not stretchy. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. There will be a list to all of the specific hardware we used and the leather in the description, along with the pattern for a couple bucks. And I'll probably add another size in there so you have 3 sizes to work with. But remember, on these, you really only need this pad or this pad. You can make this as long or as short as you need to. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.